All right, let's get right into it. We all think we know that sleep is important. But what if I told you it's the most powerful performance-enhancing tool we have, and most of us are just not using it? Today, we're going to unpack the science of sleep. And honestly, some of these discoveries are pretty shocking. But stick with me, because understanding this stuff is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, you heard that right. We're just going to start there. Now, that isn't just some line to grab your attention. It is a scientifically documented fact from the research. It's just a really stark, really immediate sign of how deeply a lack of sleep messes with our basic biology, right down to our reproductive health. And hey, if it's doing that, you have to wonder, what else is it doing?
So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, it means that men who are regularly getting only 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night will have the testosterone level of someone a full decade older than they are. Think about that. Not getting enough sleep will literally age a man 10 years in that one critical area of health.
Okay, so as wild as those physical effects are, what sleep deprivation does to your brain is, wow, it's just as profound. It turns out sleep isn't just about your mind taking a break. Nope, it's actively working, managing, and most importantly, saving your memories. You can literally think of it as your brain's save button.
So check this out. In a study, researchers tested this very idea. They had two groups. One got a full 8 hours of sleep, and the other, they pulled an all-nighter. Then they tried to make both groups learn a bunch of new stuff. The result? A jaw-dropping 40% drop in the brain's ability to make new memories when you don't sleep. That's not just a small difference. That is the difference between acing an exam and failing it completely.
So how does this whole thing even work? Well, it's a two-part process. Getting sleep before you learn something is kind of like getting a dry sponge ready to soak up all that new information. But getting sleep after you learn is just as important. That's when your brain hits that save button, firing up a kind of file transfer system that locks those memories in place.
And we can get even more specific. There's a part of your brain called the hippocampus, and you can think of it as your brain's email inbox for information. When you're sleep-deprived, that inbox basically just shuts down. It's full. Any new information, any new experiences you're trying to learn, they just get bounced. You can't make new memories. Period.
And this is the save mechanism in action. During our deepest stages of non-REM sleep, our brain produces these huge, powerful brain waves. And these waves are what transfer memories from the short-term, vulnerable storage in the hippocampus to a much safer, long-term home in the cortex. That's how sleep protects and secures everything you've learned. It's incredible.
So we know that sleep loss destroys our memory. But it doesn't just stop at the brain, not even close. Think of sleep loss like a broken water pipe in your house. It starts in one place, but pretty soon it's leaking down and damaging every single part of your physiology. Your entire body takes a hit. Let's start with the heart. You know, there's a global experiment that's performed on 1.6 billion people twice a year. It's called daylight savings time. And in the spring, when we lose just 1 hour of sleep, hospitals report a 24% increase in heart attacks the very next day. And on the flip side, in the fall, when we gain an hour of sleep, a 21% reduction in heart attacks. It's that sensitive.
Okay, how about your immune system? This is a big one. Inside your body, you have these amazing immune cells called natural killer cells. They're like your body's own little secret service, seeking out and destroying dangerous things like cancer cells. But get this, after just one night of only 4 hours of sleep, there is a 70% drop in the activity of these critical cancer-fighting immune cells. A 70% drop. That is a shocking state of immune deficiency to be in.
And that weakened immune system has very real consequences. Scientists are now finding significant links between short sleep and your risk for developing all sorts of cancers, like cancer of the bowel, prostate, and breast. The connection is actually so strong now that the World Health Organization has classified any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen. Why? Because it disrupts your sleep.
And the scary thing is how quickly this damage happens. In one study, they took a group of healthy adults and just limited them to 6 hours of sleep a night for 1 week. That's it. And the result? The activity of 711 of their genes was distorted. The genes that support your immune system, they were switched off. And the genes that promote tumors, chronic inflammation, and heart disease, they got switched on.
I know. This all sounds incredibly depressing, but there is a silver lining here. Because we've ignored sleep in medicine for so long, it's this huge missing piece of the puzzle when we talk about aging and disease. And it's a piece that we might actually be able to fix.
So, instead of sleeping pills, which we now know don't produce natural, healthy sleep, scientists are developing some amazing new tech. One method is like giving your brain a gentle nudge. They use a weak electrical current, so small you don't even feel it, and it can actually boost those big, deep sleep brain waves. And incredibly, this can nearly double the memory benefits you get from sleep. This offers real hope, especially for older adults or people with dementia.
So, what can you and I do right now to get better sleep? Putting aside the obvious stuff like avoiding caffeine and alcohol late at night, there are two really simple, really powerful tips that can make a massive difference.
First, regularity is king. Go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. I'm talking weekdays, weekends, no matter what. This anchors your sleep rhythm and it improves both how much you get and how good it is. Second, keep your bedroom cool. Your body's core temperature actually needs to drop to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep. The sweet spot is around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 degrees Celsius.
But what happens if you're doing all that and you're still just lying there in bed, staring at the ceiling, wide awake? This is a super common problem. And what happens is your brain starts to learn that your bed is the place for being awake and anxious. And that is the exact opposite of what you want.
So the advice here is actually pretty simple, even if it feels a little weird at first. If you've been trying to fall asleep for 20 minutes or so, just get out of bed. Go to another room, keep the lights dim, and just do something relaxing. Only when you actually feel sleepy should you go back to bed. This helps your brain relearn the connection that bed is for sleeping. I mean, think about it. You would never sit at the dinner table waiting to get hungry, right? So why would you lie in bed waiting to get sleepy?
When you boil all this research down, the mission-critical statement is this. It's clear, it's simple, and it's not an exaggeration. It's a fact backed by huge studies. The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. It's that serious. Short sleep is a predictor of all-cause mortality.
So, what's the one thing to take away from all this? Sleep is not some optional luxury. It's not something you can just decide to skip. It is a non-negotiable biological necessity. It is your life support system. It is, quite literally, Mother Nature's best effort yet at immortality. And reclaiming our right to a full night of sleep might just be the single most effective thing we can do for our health, our wellness, and our longevity.